lost my heart and hope to die. Welcome to my dark side.
Join me on Patreon to watch up to 5 episodes of this series and others in advance that are live right now. With that said, enjoy. Prince Vegeta strode through the grand, echoing corridors of the royal palace on planet Vegeta. The walls shimmered with gold and crimson banners bearing the royal insignia, each step of his boots ringing with pride and purpose. Walking just beside him, however, was the ever-annoying Kuni, sharp-tongued, expression flat, and endlessly talkative. Her dry humor was almost unbearable, but as the king himself had assigned her to oversee his progress, Vegeta had no choice but to tolerate her constant presence. Working out on solo missions is dangerous enough even in thought, Kuni said, her voice cool yet edged with concern. A Saiyan's chances of survival drop 50% when operating alone. Attempting to do so for an extended period, your odds sink even lower, nearly non-existent actually. Vegeta's eyes flicked toward her with mild irritation. Kuni never missed an opportunity to lecture him. Ever since she caught word of his desire to take missions on his own, she'd been determined to bury him under statistics and cold facts. History shows that every Saiyan who's tried to go solo hasn't lasted long, she continued, arms folded behind her back. If they survive a year, they're lucky. There's a reason even the best warriors operate in teams. It's risky enough sending 3 fighters out together. Even your father goes with his best men when necessary. Vegeta stopped mid-step, his cape swaying as he slowly turned his head toward her. All these numbers, all these statistics you keep throwing at me, he said, his voice calm but cutting. They're based on averages, aren't they? Kuni blinked, caught off guard by the sudden question. Well, yes, she replied cautiously. And when you say averages, Vegeta went on, his lips curling into a confident smirk, you mean the average Saiyan? Kuni already knew where he was going with this. Yes, she admitted. Then you forget something, Kuni, Vegeta said proudly, crossing his arms. I'm no average Saiyan. Even as a child, I've already surpassed my father. I am the strongest Saiyan alive. Many believe that I'm the one destined to become the legendary Super Saiyan, the first in centuries. So spare me your nonsense about statistics. They don't apply to me. He said it with such conviction that even Kuni couldn't argue. And truthfully, he wasn't wrong. Among not only the Saiyan army, but even in Frieza's massive empire, Vegeta already stood as one of the most powerful elites. His confidence wasn't arrogance, it was earned through battle. Still, even the strongest warrior couldn't deny the dangers of the unknown cosmos. Before she could respond, heavy footsteps echoed through the marble halls, each one firm and deliberate. The rhythmic clinking of jewelry accompanied them, the unmistakable sound of King Vegeta's approach. The prince immediately straightened his posture, spun on his heel, and bowed as his father appeared at the end of the corridor, his royal cloak dragging gracefully across the floor. I see you two have been expecting me, the king said with a faint smile. Vegeta rose from his bow and nodded respectfully. Come, the king said, motioning toward the large dining hall ahead. Let us talk over a meal. They walked together down the hall, speaking in low tones. The palace guards had already cleared the area, and not one scouter or electronic device was anywhere nearby, a deliberate choice to ensure privacy. What is it you wish to discuss, my son? King Vegeta asked, his deep voice resonating with curiosity and authority. My solo missions, Vegeta answered without hesitation. Solo missions? The king repeated, raising an eyebrow. Though his son's combat record was impressive, he was still only 9 years old. The universe was vast, full of dangers that even the king himself hadn't conquered. For all of Vegeta's strength, he still lacked experience. And this doesn't strike you as excessive? The king questioned, his tone calm but probing. Vegeta's response came sharp and confident. On my most recent assignment, I realized something. The warriors I'm partnered with are too weak. They hold me back. Mid-class, low-class, they're all the same. If I continue working with them, I'll only grow at their pace. But if I take on missions alone, every battle will push me harder, force me to evolve faster. By the time I'm grown, I'll be the most complete Saiyan the universe has ever seen. He stopped in front of the grand doors of the royal dining hall. The delicious aroma of roasted meat and exotic spices wafted through the air, but Vegeta ignored it, focusing only on his father. "Besides," he said, his tone turning sharp and deliberate, "you'll need me at my full strength if we're ever to liberate our people, won't you?" King Vegeta's gaze hardened, meeting his son's with a knowing look. He then glanced briefly at Kuni, whose expression revealed she didn't quite understand what the prince meant, but father and son did. The meaning was clear between them: freedom from Frieza's grasp. After a pause, the king exhaled slowly and nodded. "Very well. I'll have your current comrades reassigned. You may take on solo missions as you wish." Vegeta's smirk returned, confident and proud, though his father's expression remained unreadable. Deep down, the king still harbored doubts. His son was strong, yes, perhaps even destined for greatness, but the universe was cruel and unpredictable. Still, he couldn't let his son see hesitation. The boy's pride was the key to his power. "Glad we're on the same page, father," Vegeta said, his voice carrying a faint tone of triumph. King Vegeta only nodded in return, silent yet watchful, knowing that this was the first step toward the storm his son would one day bring upon the stars. Boop, boop, boop. The slow, steady rhythm echoed through the dimly lit medical bay. Raditz stood still, his black tail wrapped loosely around his waist, staring through the glass of the rejuvenation tank. Inside, Vosa floated lifelessly, her body suspended in glowing blue liquid. The machine hummed softly, her heart monitor beeping faintly in the background, a fragile rhythm that could stop at any moment. He should have been focused on her recovery, but his thoughts drifted back to planet Sun. He remembered the chaos, the screaming, the blood. Back then, he thought Vegeta would always have his back, that he could trust the prince. But when things went south, when Raditz needed him most, Vegeta didn't lift a finger. That moment burned deep into Raditz's mind like a scar. He clenched his fists, his jaw tightening. Damn him. The prince he once admired, the one he looked up to, treated him like a bug beneath his heel. He'd kissed up to Vegeta, believing he was something more than another grunt in the prince's shadow. But on that mission, he saw the truth. Vegeta cared only for himself. Maybe that's what made him so powerful. Maybe selfishness was strength. The tank gurgled softly. Gurgle, gurgle. Beep, beep, beep. A sharp alarm cut through his thoughts. We're losing her. Before Raditz could react, a swarm of doctors rushed into the room, pushing him aside. He stumbled back as they crowded around the rejuvenation chamber, shouting orders and adjusting controls. The boy could only watch, helpless, as panic filled the air. "It's her blood," one doctor shouted, scanning the monitor. "She's been poisoned. Her cells are breaking down." Another, with green amphibian skin, looked grim. "An acidic cell has entered her system. It's devouring everything, our treatment. It's only accelerating the process." Raditz's voice cracked slightly. "So, she can't be saved?" No one answered right away. The room was filled only with the beeping of failing equipment and the hiss of draining liquid. Then, one of the doctors let out a long, heavy sigh and stepped toward the control panel. Raditz's heart sank. He didn't know much about medicine, but he understood what that button meant. The doctor pressed it. The blue liquid drained from the tank, Vosa's body slumping slightly as the glow dimmed. The beeping slowed until it stopped. "Sorry, sir," the doctor said softly. "There's nothing more we can do." Raditz stood there, frozen. Just like that, another comrade was gone. His third partner, dead before he'd even reached 10 years old. The thought chilled him to the bone. Was he next? How many teammates would he lose before his turn came? He cleared his throat, forcing his voice to sound steady. "Well, what are you going to do with her body?" It was the Saiyan way. Hide the pain, show no weakness. No matter what you felt inside, outsiders weren't allowed to see it. "We'll feed it to the native animals," one doctor replied bluntly. "Better than wasting resources." "Oh." Raditz's response came out hollow. Another doctor, hesitant, asked, "Are there any valuables you'd like to keep?" His peers shot him sharp looks, as if to say, "Don't bother." Everyone knew Saiyans didn't grieve. They didn't care about their fallen, or so the galaxy believed. Raditz's eyes landed on a small object sitting on the counter, a white armband, simple but clean. "That armband," he said, pointing. "I want it." "It's yours," the doctor said quietly. Raditz walked over, picked it up, and carefully wrapped it around his left arm. The band was still faintly warm, carrying traces of her scent. Vosa had been different, not like the others, not like Bruss or Sprout. She was strong, calm, even kind. He hadn't known her long, but he respected her. Keeping the armband felt right, even if it was foolish. It was a piece of her strength, something to carry forward. He whispered under his breath, "You'll keep fighting with me, right?" His stomach churned. The idea of eating turned his gut. Instead, he decided to ration what little food he had left until he returned home. The metallic halls of planet Frieza 33 stretched before him, cold, silent, lifeless. Then his scouter chimed. "PIP, Raditz, you there?" That low, gruff tone, unmistakable. "Father," he said, straightening up. "Yeah, I'm here." "What's going on?" It wasn't often Bardock called, and when he did, it usually meant something serious. On the other end, Bardock sat alone in his ship, the stars streaking past his view. Hours had passed since the battle on planet Gawake. His body was healed, but his spirit was not. The silence of space left him with nothing but thoughts and grief. "It's about your mother," Bardock said quietly. "She went after Kakarot." She thought he was still on planet Gawake. Raditz felt a pang of worry. "And?" "I searched every inch of that planet," Bardock continued, voice growing heavy. "Kakarot wasn't there, but I did find your mother." Raditz's heart pounded. "How is she?" "Is she?" Bardock cut him off, his tone flat and final. "You know I won't sugarcoat it, son. Geen is dead." Raditz's eyes went wide. He had never imagined his mother taken so soon. In his head, Geen would grow old and die peacefully in her sleep. Bardock, he thought, would be the first to go, not her. He stumbled into his ship and sank into the pilot's seat, drawing a long, hollow breath. Dead? His voice came out numb, as if the words didn't quite belong to him. "Gone," Bardock said, blunt and steady. "If you want to visit her, she's buried on the highest mountain of planet Gawake. I buried her undergarments there too. Just letting you know." Raditz cut in before his father could hang up. "Wait a second." "What is it?" Bardock asked, clipped. "The day Mother left to look for Kakarot," Raditz said quickly. "She contacted somebody who said they had Kakarot and that they were both on planet Gawake." Bardock was silent for a moment, thinking. He hadn't known Geen had spoken to anyone. Now, pieces started to fit together. "But I searched every inch of that planet. Kakarot wasn't there." "Then he lied," Raditz snapped. After another pause, Bardock answered, quieter. "Thanks for telling me, Raditz. Whatever you do, stay out of this and follow your orders. I'll get to the bottom of this, eventually." Raditz wanted to jump in, to hunt whoever had killed his mother, but he understood his father's tone. "I trust you to find out the truth," he said instead. "Good. And don't assume Kakarot had anything to do with this. He loved Geen as much as we did, maybe even more. The poor kid probably doesn't know what happened yet." "All right, father." The call cut off. Raditz stared up at the ceiling of his ship and let out an exhausted sigh. There's nothing worse that can come out of this day. He had no appetite. The rations beside him sat untouched. He closed his eyes, though sleep felt distant. PIP, another call. He groaned. "Really?" "Young combatant, Raditz, we have a mandated report for you." "Yeah? What is it?" You will no longer be working alongside Prince Vegeta on combat missions. From now on, you'll be assigned to another band of soldiers, making up a squad of 4. Their names are Korn, Jaga, and Dane. Your scouter reception has been given to them so that they know where you are at any time. Raditz cut the message off, ripped his scouter free, and flung it against the ship's wall. The device cracked and clattered. Was the universe mocking him? First his partner, then his mother, and now he was removed from Vegeta's team. Anger flared hot and fast. His own prince doubted him so much that he'd been pushed away from the squad. Raditz had dreamed of fighting beside Vegeta, of rising with him, of being recognized as one of the noble elite. Now that dream felt plundered, ripped away and given to lesser soldiers. Pitiful. If Vegeta doubted him, Raditz would take what he'd been given and make them regret it. He would prove himself. I'll show you, Vegeta. I can't believe this little brat has us going from village to village just to look for him, Jaga complained, irritation cracking his voice as they tromped down the sun-baked path of a small settlement. The 3 Saiyan moved from house to house, hunting for their new squad member. None of them had a steady home. They drifted from planet to planet, using the locals as food and fuel for the next fight. Years had passed since any of them had a genuine meal cooked by another's hand. Their armor smelled of different planets' blood and sweat. They didn't care, only the next battle mattered now. Still, this pointless search tested their patience. Jaga was short and thick-set, bald, with 3 parallel scars slashing diagonally across his forehead. He wore a strapped chestplate and ragged trousers. Korn, the only female of the group, looked flashy despite the grime. Hoop earrings, a purple baggy skirt, and a cloud of curly hair. The gold of her earrings had darkened to a brownish tint from blood and time. Dane was the odd one. Hair that leaned to the side, a few bangs framing his face, and a birthmark stretching from beneath his eye down to his cheek that some mistook for a scar. He wore green armor with dark blue undergarments and chewed on a piece of grass, saying little. Dane stayed silent, fed up with their lack of information from their missing comrade. If they had their way, they'd leave the kid behind and be done with it, but abandoning him might bring trouble. Best to avoid unnecessary risk. He should live just right over here, Korn said at last, pointing toward a squat building with a simple sign. The village's meat distributor. The trio quickened their pace until they stopped outside Raditz's home. Inside sat father and son, mid-conversation, while Gumiels worked quietly nearby alongside her daughter. Jaga stepped forward, his gruff voice cutting through the air. Which one of you is named Raditz? Everyone looked up. Even Bardock paused his talk with his son to eye the 3 unfamiliar Saiyans standing in his doorway. Raditz rose from his chair and walked toward them. That would be me, he said plainly. Who are you? We're the ones you'll be working with from now on, Jaga replied with his usual bluntness. I'm Jaga, that's Korn, and the tall one is Dane. Got it? Good. Dane, however, wasn't focused on the boy. His sharp eyes had locked on Bardock, who was seated at the table, staring right back at him with quiet suspicion. The air between them thickened, something unspoken passing through the silence. Go ahead and show the kid the ship we'll be using, Dane said suddenly, not taking his eyes off Bardock. Jaga frowned. You're not thinking of skipping out on showing the brat the ropes, are you? Dane let out a low chuckle, shaking his head. No, of course not. I just wish to speak to Bardock. Raditz blinked, confused. You know my father? Yes, Dane said calmly, but he doesn't know me. I doubt he even cares who I am. He glanced back at Jaga and Korn. Carry on. I'll catch up. As the others left with Raditz, Bardock leaned back in his chair, studying the stranger before him. Something about Dane's face felt oddly familiar, not identical, but close enough to make him uneasy. And you might be? Bardock asked, narrowing his eyes. Little Raditz's uncle, Dane answered smoothly, folding his arms. Long time no see, brother. Bardock let out a short laugh. Brother? Since when did I have any siblings? He always suspected the possibility. Saiyan families were large and scattered, but he'd never bothered to look into it. Like most of their kind, his parents didn't give a damn about him. He'd learned early on that the only one who could be trusted was himself. "Since forever," Dane said with a smirk. "I was never around, and you took off the moment you could stand on your own 2 legs. But it's been a long time. If not for the hair, I might have mistaken you for some low-level soldier licking boots for scraps. Last time I saw you, and the twin, you were babies." "That's nice," Bardock muttered, sipping from his glass of water. He didn't seem the least bit surprised. "If you ever run into a kid with hair like mine, let me know. His name's Kakarot. Haven't got a clue where he is now." Dane smirked. "Responsible as ever, I see. But I doubt I'll be crossing paths with your boy. I'm hardly ever home." He rested his hands on the table and leaned forward. "And you might as well get used to not having your eldest around either. Our crew jumps from planet to planet, only stopping when we're low on fuel. We use that time to clean up, restock on rations, and sell off our assignments. You'll see your kid about as often as I see mine, which is never." "Humph." Bardock tipped back his drink, finishing it in one swallow. "And you said I've got a twin?" "Yes," Dane said simply. "There were more of us once, but most didn't make it. As far as I know, there are only a handful of us left. The last one I saw was Turles, but like you, he went his own way after his infiltration mission. I'm surprised you two never crossed paths. I always heard twins were supposed to share a special connection." "Turles, huh?" Bardock murmured, his expression tightening. The name stirred something deep in his memory, a faint echo of a conversation he once had with Geen. "His name is Turles. Does that ring any bells?" she had asked softly. "I've heard of him, but never seen him," Bardock had answered. "They say he's got the same hair as me?" "Twins," she'd said, smiling faintly. "That's the only way we can tell you apart. He's a little darker than you, but at least you know you're not the only one." Dane turned away from the table, his tone casual. "So long, Bardock." "Bye," Bardock said simply. When the door shut, Bardock sat there for a moment, deep in thought. If he was going to uncover the truth behind Geen's death and what happened to Kakarot, he couldn't do it alone. As much as he disliked socializing, he knew the only path forward was to start asking questions, talking to those who might have seen something, anyone who knew where his son had been or who he'd been with. His mind wandered back to his last battle on planet Gawake. The details were foggy, broken bones, shattered armor, and a body barely clinging to life. He could still remember the sting of his blood being drained, the cold fluid of the rejuvenation tank washing over his wounds. He had come within seconds of death. P.I.P. "Bardock, you there?" "Yes," Bardock replied. "What is it, Toma?" Toma's voice came clear through the scouter. "We're here with King Vegeta. Pumbukin and I just finished our mission on planet Kanasa. Our power levels have spiked like crazy. We've been promoted. Totapo and Salipa are on their way. You should come too." "Got it." Bardock stood, setting his glass down. He knew what this meant, a chance to prove himself again. Despite the pain still lingering in his body, the urge to fight burned stronger than ever. His blood boiled with the familiar thrill of battle. He needed to test the power that had awakened inside him, to show the universe that Bardock was still one of the best. Toma, Salipa, Totapo, and Pumbukin all stood proudly in the grand hall, each wearing fresh new capes that draped neatly over their shoulders, a symbol of their rise in rank. The shimmering fabric reflected the royal lights above, marking them as newly promoted mid-class warriors. Their smirks said it all. They'd reached a milestone most Saiyans spent a lifetime chasing. Now, only one remained, Bardock. King Vegeta sat tall on his throne, his cape pooling regally at his feet. Beside him, the young Prince Vegeta watched in silence, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "Did anyone scan his power level before he entered?" the prince asked coolly. 3,360, King Vegeta replied. Prince Vegeta's brow furrowed slightly. "Humph." The Saibaiman's level is only 3,000. That means the outcome is already clear. Why bother with this showcase at all if he's already strong enough to be promoted? It seems pointless. King Vegeta gave his son a knowing glance. You focus too much on the numbers, my boy. Power is important, yes, but this isn't just about strength. It's about efficiency. A warrior twice as strong as his opponent can still lose if he's incompetent. No matter the power level, incompetence is fatal. Even you should understand that. The young prince scowled, but said nothing, folding his arms tighter. His father's words struck a chord, reminding him of Raditz and Vosa, and their failure on planet Sanen. Reckless, unfocused, and ultimately useless, all because of incompetence. Pathetic, he thought. Inside the royal training chamber, Bardock rolled his shoulders, cracking his neck and knuckles. His gaze hardened as the Saibaiman hissed across from him. Well, he muttered, voice low and confident, let's get this over with. KKK! The green creature screeched, claws spread wide. Bardock smirked. In an instant, he leapt high, twisting midair to plant his feet against the ceiling. With a sharp push, he launched downward like a missile. The impact of his punch shattered the air as his fist smashed across the Saibaiman's face. The creature reeled back, screeching, before Bardock spun and cracked it across the jaw with a swift roundhouse kick. The Saibaiman skidded across the floor, screeching in pain. Bardock gave it no mercy. He blurred forward, boot crashing into its spine with a thunderous thud. The creature's body crumpled, only to be snatched up by the Saiyan's rough grip. With one final motion, Bardock thrust his hand forward, a small crimson sphere sparking to life. Riot cannon! He barked, firing the blast straight through the creature's stomach. The explosion echoed through the chamber, shaking the reinforced walls. As the smoke cleared, Bardock lowered his hand and exhaled through his nose. The Saibaiman's body hit the ground with a dull thud. Not even a decent warm-up, he muttered, turning his back and walking toward the exit. Damn, Bardock, Toma laughed from the observation deck. Not wasting any time at all, huh? When do I ever? Bardock replied flatly, brushing off the dust on his gauntlets. King Vegeta's hands came together in a steady clap, the sound echoing through the hall. He was genuinely impressed. Bardock's fighting style mirrored his own, efficient, decisive, no wasted movement. The king often preferred to humiliate his enemies, but when he didn't, he made sure their deaths were quick and clean. Nicely done, the king said, standing. Come, let's return to the throne room. There is business to attend to. Bardock and his newly promoted comrades followed closely behind King Vegeta and his son. None spoke. Their boots clicked rhythmically against the polished floors as they ascended the grand staircase leading back to the throne. Once seated, King Vegeta rested an arm on the throne's edge and surveyed his warriors. Everyone, he began, his deep voice commanding silence. On this day, we welcome 4 newly promoted soldiers. You already know Toma, Salipa, Pumbukin, and Totapo. He gestured toward Bardock. And now, the final member of their team, Bardock. As mid-class soldiers, you stand closest to royalty. Take pride in that. Bardock knelt, bowing his head. Thank you, King Vegeta. Toma stepped forward with a grin, clasping Bardock's new cape onto his armor. And here you are, awarded with a fine piece of cloth, he joked. Prince Vegeta scoffed lightly. Not just any piece of cloth, he corrected. That cape represents your worth as a true Saiyan warrior. Wherever you go, others will know you're among the best. Exactly right, my son, King Vegeta added with a nod. And remember, being the best doesn't end on the battlefield. You represent the noble class now. Conduct yourselves with dignity, think before you act, and never bring shame to your title. If you do, we will ensure you regret it before the eyes of hundreds. Are we clear? Yes, sir, the group responded in unison. King Vegeta's stern look softened into a satisfied smile. Good. It had been less than half a year, and already he had 5 new mid-class soldiers, 4 of whom had proven their worth through the Super Saibaman trials. Not long ago, it took decades for one warrior to climb the ranks, but the Saiyan race was evolving faster than ever, growing stronger with each generation. By the time my son sits on this throne, King Vegeta thought, he will have everything he needs to overthrow Frieza. He won't even need an army, just his elite. He could hardly contain his excitement. Finally, this is out of the way. Now I can go ahead and look for my son. Excuse me, Bardock said, stepping forward. Oh no, stay, King Vegeta interrupted, raising a hand. You already have an assignment. Bardock blinked, caught off guard. Already? I just got promoted. Though annoyance burned behind his calm expression, he remained composed. And what assignment might that be? He asked, his voice steady, though his tail twitched with restrained impatience. And that's it for today's episode, guys. If you watched to the end, then that could be an indication that you enjoy the series. So please leave a like on the video. Thank you and take care.